What do you say we dial up a third live stream of the day? It is 4 o'clock Eastern. It is Monday, September 8th. And of course, tonight, Monday Night Football, week 1 of this NFL regular season comes to a close. I'm here to chat more through last night's heartbreaker. It was an excruciating outcome for the Ravens, who dropped to 0-1 after a 41-40 loss in shootout fashion, whatever you want to call it, barn burner. They're on the wrong side of history, as we've discussed all throughout today. And we will continue to discuss that because Cris Carter, former NFL wide receiver who knows a thing or two about defenses and NFL wide receiver play and everything else in between on both sides and both phases of the game, had a whole lot to say about what he's seen from John Harbaugh in recent years. John Harbaugh also sat down for his Monday press conference. Apparently those will be held at 2:30 for the foreseeable future. Now that we are in regular season mode, we'll open back up the guest lines to get your thoughts on all of this and get into a number of other things like ProfitX. That's the newest brand sponsor of the channel this season. Thanks to them, it's America's #1 sports prediction market. I appreciate their support, along with all of my other wonderful sponsors, including over on the Vault as well. By the way, if you're looking for a piece of merch, official Vault merch, that is, you can visit thevaultpod.com/shop, where we have a lot more than just these hoodies, but these are pretty darn clean right here. We'll also have an update on that Bills fan who not only shoved DeAndre Hopkins, but Lamar Jackson as well. The NFL has come down hard on that young kid. He really does seem like a kid. So get into that and a whole lot more coming up. More Celsius for me. It's the second one of the day. Don't worry, I'll be cutting myself off rather soon, I hope, because it's been that kind of turnaround off of a primetime performance for the Ravens and Bills. Let's get into it. If you could on the way in, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell. You guys know the drill. And again, thanks to ProfitX for the continued support here inside the channel. You know by now that 17 blown double-digit leads is the most by any coach since 1991, and that is something that's attached to John Harbaugh's name. Josh Dubow from the Associated Press all over this within the last day or so. John Harbaugh also in 55 opportunities finds himself as one of just 3 coaches to lose twice in regular season play when leading by 15-plus points at the start of the fourth quarter. I think you know this by now. The Ravens are the first team in NFL history to score 40-plus points and rush for over 235 in a loss. And yes, previously teams were unbeaten at 277-0, and that did include the playoffs. Again, the graphic that's been circulating. And how about the question or the statement from Jeff Zaribek of The Athletic? We'll get into more on the collective tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern. It's our new YouTube channel. Cole Jackson, Jeff, and myself, Tuesdays at 8 o'clock Eastern. And Jeff and his recent piece, I should say, on The Athletic, says the fact is the Ravens seemingly have no answers as to why this keeps happening. Again, that is the blown lead issue that the Ravens continue to not have answers for. John Harbaugh continues at the top to not have answers for. And you see it right here over the last several years. Fourth quarter leads, second half leads, you name it, double digit, comfortable leads. Like, well, I'll never forget the Miami one, 35-14. They ended up losing that game, even though they had a very comfortable multi-score lead with over 12 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. It is an epidemic. It has plagued them. It's become an Achilles heel and something that is followed really league-wide. So much so that there's a graphic that they just keep adding to. And the latest one that you can do so, obviously, is last night with a multi-score, right? 2-score lead that the Ravens had, a command over the Buffalo Bills in that second half, and yet they still find a way to cough it up in week 1 with major seeding on the line. Cris Carter, former NFL wide receiver, here he is with Kay Adams, calling it a spade when it comes to what he's seen from John Harbaugh, not just recently, but over the last several years.
Has been absent on the sideline the last 4 or 5 years because you can't have that number of leads and be that good of a coach and punt and be like, hey, I'm happy with punting to our defense. This is not Ed Reed. This is not my boy Ray Ray. Like they are just a shadow of themselves. All those first-round draft picks, 5 first-rounders in the secondary, multiple other first-round picks on the defensive line and linebackers. Like I'm concerned about their whole defensive system, and not last night, but what I've seen the last several years. And I tried to look it up, but to me, maybe your expert information staff, I know, but around the same time that they departed with Wink Martindale, their defense is starting to change. And since then, like, what's their identity been? Like, what's it been? Okay, last year they got to the passer, but like, what's it been? Turnovers. Like, if I'm Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh, I'm so excited to get this version of the Baltimore defense because it's not a version that he's going to ever want to see. But they don't have an identity as a defense. And when you don't have an identity, that's going to dictate going forward more on fourth down, even if your quarterback is compromised, which they said Lamar was last night.
And we'll get to John Harbaugh's takeaways, and specifically when he was asked about the fourth down call, right, to punt it away on 4th and 3 and ultimately take the hands out of his MVP's right grasp, and that it was a decision that he made and he stood by during his press conference earlier this afternoon at one winning drive. You heard what Cris Carter had to say, some pretty strong words. Harbaugh has been absent on the sideline the last 4 or 5 years. I'm concerned about their whole defensive system, and not just last night, but what I've seen the last several years. They don't have an identity as a defense, and when you don't have an identity, that's going to dictate going for it more on fourth down, even if your quarterback is compromised. Now, what does he mean by compromised? We all know what John Harbaugh shared last night. I keep getting that wrong because I'm on limited sleep. Lamar himself referred to it as cramping last night, which is why he didn't urge John Harbaugh and company to go for it on 4th and 3 with the game on the line, really in the balance, I should say, with the game in the balance. John Harbaugh went on to explain a number of things related to, again, the fourth down decision, some of the 2020 hindsight that he and his staff are experiencing and thinking about today in the aftermath.
I don't know exactly, because that was a long gain, so you don't know exactly what yard line so it's got to be quick. The win probability, it might have been, I'm going to say it might have been maybe 2% or 1%, something like that going for it. And you got to make the decision very quickly, and you got to say, hey, do we have a call that we really like? Do we have a call we love here? Because you got to send the punt team out, or you're going to have a delay game. Or you got to send your offense out, or you're not going to get the playoff just that fast. And, Lamar was coming off the field at that point. I could see something wasn't quite right. And you say you got to get your punt team out there. And that was really it's a fast sequence of events in that moment. But then again, too, I'm not shying away from putting our defense out there. I mean, if you get stopped on 4th and 3, did you think about punting the ball and putting your defense out there and giving them a chance to win the game? I mean, that would have been the next conversation because they'd have been in field goal range already. So I trust our defense, and I'm going to trust our defense this year in a lot of big situations because our defense is going to be really, really good. And I know there's doubt about that right now probably, but I guarantee you our defense is going to play really good football this year.
Making a guarantee, and look, I don't doubt that the defense let me be careful with how I say this. I believe the defense will be solid and will come around, and this is 1 week, and it could very well be a preview of the AFC Championship game that could very well be also back in Buffalo, right? A do-or-die playoff game for the second consecutive season I could absolutely see, especially with this Week 1 victory going in Buffalo's favor, being played yet again at Highmark Stadium in Western New York in January, in elements that you don't want to have to play in and through if you don't have to. What I also understand, and by the way, to go back to Cris Carter's comments that you see on the screen right now, I agree with you, chat. There's no question that Mike Macdonald had established a defensive identity in the 2023 season in Baltimore prior to getting his first head coaching opportunity with the Seattle Seahawks. Can we all agree? There's been no other team in NFL history from a defensive standpoint who led in the trifecta of categories that are sacks, points allowed, and takeaways. And that's something that Mike Macdonald and company did in the 2023 season. That's a pretty darn good identity. Where they start to lose their identity, I would say, in years past is in the big postseason moments. And it starts and ends, and we saw it really take place on Sunday night, is the lack of pass rush, almost a non-existent pass rush that allowed Josh Allen and company to camp out, survey the field, move the ball. There were some fluky aspects of some of the output from Buffalo's perspective, offensively speaking, right? A couple missed interceptions would extend drives. Malachi Starks had one in the breadbasket. Cheeto Awuzie had one that he'd probably want back. There was the tipped ball that turned into a touchdown for Keon Coleman. There were some fluky penalties involved in there. But bottom line is 28 second half points is 28 second half points. It's just abysmal. It's just unacceptable. And it looked eerily reminiscent at times to what they fielded defensively the first 10 weeks during the 2024 season. More from John Harbaugh on, again, the fourth down call, 4th and 3. You opt to punt it, take it out of your MVP's hands and into the reigning MVP's hands on his home turf. And obviously, the Bills never look back.
The balance is, do I really think we have a really good chance to get it? You know, because if we get it, we win the game. If we don't get it, they're in field goal range. So I think, as I just explained, all those things that kind of went down in that sequence, you can understand where it's like, what are our chances of getting that right here? I mean, Lamar's coming off the field. You know, something's not right. It's 4th and 3. Do we have a really good call? And time clock's ticking down. Do I want to call timeout and burn that timeout? Or do I want to have that timeout? You know, maybe you burn the timeout right there. In that moment, 4th and 3, put our defense out there, think we can get a stop, get a good punt, pin it down. Do we love the punt? Don't love it, you know. So all the things that happen after that are just things that happen. And you got to do the best you can in a very short period of time. So, no, I don't think you could sit there and say, you can say, well, I should have been more aggressive, but I don't think you can definitively say that's the right thing either. You can't really say that for sure. Because it could have, you could make that choice and could easily be having the conversation the other way here. That's just the way it works.
If your gut had told you we have to go for this, would you have had to call a timeout, do you think, because
yes, I would have definitely had to call a timeout to get the play up and do it. Would have definitely had to. And I'm not saying you couldn't have done that. We could have done that, you know. But in that moment, didn't seem like the right thing.
So again, a lot of this is just in the past, obviously, but being that his Monday press conference just wrapped up an hour or two ago, and he's having to answer for a lot of these decisions that were made yesterday, 41-40, closely contested, razor-thin margin for error type of contest. It makes sense to kind of sneak back through and give you some of these takeaways, like the way that he's addressed, as he's had to for years running now, this disturbing fourth quarter blown lead trend that we have literally seen dating back to the 21-22 season, somewhere around there. But what have you done for me lately? 6 multi-score, double-digit blown leads in the fourth quarter. That's what Harb spoke about earlier this afternoon.
Back a couple of years, some of the fourth quarter leads that have evaporated. Is there a rhyme or reason for it? Because it's happened an awful lot.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I think that there's all those scenarios. If you look back at all those games, there's been a lot of, every game we've had, there's been a fourth quarter and there's been a scenario. There's been games where we've been in the Bills' shoes. There's been a new number of games where we've come back from 2 scores down and we've won. And how do you do that? How do you make that happen? There's been times where we've been 2 scores up and we've won. We've gotten the first down. We've done that. We've been 1 score down and we've popped a run and gone down and kicked a field goal, whether it's in overtime or at the end of the game, or we've gotten a stop, that we had to get. And maybe part of it's the fact that we've been ahead a lot. We've won a lot of games, so we've had a lot of 2-score leads. So we've kept a lot of those, but I think we've lost 6 of them, if I'm not mistaken. That's too many. I don't care how many 2-score leads you have. And I do believe that we need to be really thoughtful of, how we decide that we're going to approach those situations going forward. Let's give it some thought. Let's give some thought to our play calling. Let's give some thought to our defensive play calling. Let's give some thought to our mindset, like how we're going to talk to one another. We're 2 scores up, we're trying to keep a lead against Josh Allen or any other, or any of these great quarterbacks in this league. What's our mindset on defense? How are we going to approach this? How are we going to talk to one another on the sideline, try to find a way to get the win? It becomes kind of a situation, a game scenario that we need to be really intentional about going forward.
Look, there's only so many ways that you can answer the same question year in and year out when there's really one Achilles heel that continues to plague you over and over and over again. And whether it's conservative play calling, whether it's lack of execution, whether it's lack of strategy, you name it, they haven't been good enough closing out football games when they have no business being in situations where it's 11:30 at night on a Sunday night football game and you've utterly dominated through 3 quarters-ish, and yet I guess they didn't really dominate much of the second half, but they were comfortably in the driver's seat late in the 3rd quarter and even into the 4th quarter, and yet here it is coming up on midnight last night, and the game's totally hanging in the balance of everything that we watched transpire there. John also talked a little bit about the aggressiveness. Asked point blank, was he and their staff and their game plan aggressive enough? And do you look back at it with any kind of second guesses?
Offensively and defensively, generally speaking, we tried to be as aggressive as we could be, Did we call the right plays? Well, hindsight, no. I mean, they didn't work, So, and I'm not just saying that to blow it off, I mean, I kind of might have, maybe we could have had some sort of a naked boot, I kind of would have liked maybe if we'd have done that. Hindsight being 2020. I'm not sure I want to drop back pass, against zero right there necessarily, but it's not to say we couldn't have popped it because our guys are good man route runners, and maybe we get the ball off, and we get a catch and run, but that ball can get batted down too, So that's one that you say, would that have been a little more aggressive? That would have been, but the ball gets batted down there, and it's like, why don't you just give it to Derek, or just put it in Lamar's hands and let him run it, So I think that's the catch-22 of the whole conversation. Defensively, well, we tried everything. We tried everything. We were playing man. We were playing zone. We were blitzing. We were coming off the edge. We were showing and dropping out of there. So we just didn't really get them stopped in the last 2 drives at all. And the plays that happened. So we didn't execute a couple times. We let them sneak out of there with a sneak running back sneak play that should have been covered. I mean, we have the means to cover that in that defensive call. The sideline play and at the end of the half, that should be covered. That's supposed to be defended there at that depth right there. That's the way the defense is built, and I think that's part of what I was saying before. Early in the season, you do find some things out, and especially when you're playing a really good offense, you get exposed a little bit, and we learn where we have to get better too.
Now, just to be clear, I see some of you chatting about the number of double-digit blown leads and whatnot, and so yes, the 17 number, right, is the most by any coach since 1991. That is double-digit blown leads, 17 of them by John Harbaugh and company, okay? And this is second half. So 17 blown double-digit leads in the second half are the most since at least 1991. I believe what he was referring to in one of those answers that I just snipped for you in the last few minutes is multi-score deficits, or multi-score leads that evaporated in recent years in the 4th quarter alone. That's my understanding of it. But again, he became one of just 3 coaches to lose twice in regular season play when leading by 15 plus points at the start of the 4th quarter last night. Again, just continues to be on the wrong side of history with a lot of these statistics. And let me tell you, last night, as fluky as it was at times, I mentioned a couple would-be interceptions, right, that weren't. For Malachi Starks, who had an opportunity to get a deflected interception there from Josh Allen in the opening quarter. Cheeto Awuzie later on in that game last night. You think about the tip drill touchdown. Keon Coleman's just in the right place at the right time. There's a couple flags that go uncalled for. One that comes to mind is a clear hold or a DPI there on who was it? Was it Benford and Bateman that were tangled up at one point that went uncalled? So Look, in a 41-40 game, you'll always have those types of little nuances and wrinkles that you can go back and look at and dissect. But ultimately, I think the major takeaway here is that it feels like a broken record year in and year out, with something that overcomes not just the Ravens defense, not just the Ravens offense, but almost a cloud over all three phases when it matters the most, once or twice a year. And gosh, sometimes even more. I had the chart for you earlier, didn't I, in today's live stream? I'll pull it up right now, because Bo Smoka, through Pro Football Reference, had the actual number here of blown leads since 2022. And I'll blow this thing up just so we can all look at it and here, let me just hide the comment section for a second here. Look at this. Since 2022, and look at the amount of games. Again, these are blown leads, and it shows you just how many as well. A lot of double digits, as you can see in there, and a lot of them have come within the last couple years. Obviously, back-to-back atop this list are against these Buffalo Bills, who they saw in week 1 and they saw in the divisional round. I needed to tell you that twice. So it's a disturbing trend. At some point, somebody's got to answer to it. And you just wonder, as this continues to build and as the season itself continues to roll forward, I have no doubt that the Ravens are going to rip off double-digit wins, be a comfortable playoff team, get rolling in the regular season. All that's still to come. But we've watched this before. We've watched this movie before. And the question becomes ultimately, and it will be the deciding factor in probably jobs, not livelihoods, but you know what I mean, in the next phase of Ravens football. Should they continue to not be able to exercise these demons and continue to go up against the wall that is themselves, self-inflicted wounds? Although I will say on that note, I don't think that this one, meaning this most recent loss, this most recent epic collapse, is one of those ones where you can say the Ravens beat themselves. At some point, that becomes a tired type of label that can be slapped on, I think, a lot of their self-inflicted wounds last year that led to losses and that led to underwhelming performances. But as far as last night's concerned, I'm giving Buffalo as much as flukes became a part of the ultimate outcome. How much are we going to continue to lean on something like that? And how long until it's like, hey, the reality is this is who the Ravens are, defensively speaking? Like, when does that end up coming into play? So I don't know if I necessarily agree with Cam Newton's take from earlier today on ESPN.
Everybody saw the brilliance and the playmaking ability from the Baltimore Ravens. But the only team that can beat the Baltimore Ravens is the Baltimore Ravens. And when they don't come up to show, and I mean all facets, I mean field goal kicker, I'm talking about special teams, I'm talking about defense, I'm talking about offense, you're going to see those type of blunders happen more times than not. And I'm telling you, if we don't see, and to Damien's point, if the Baltimore Ravens do not have a deep playoff push, and that's the only thing that we're judging them off of this year, a deep playoff push, it's going to be world to pay.
You know, to me, at some point, it's just there's just something about the constant. It's guaranteed. It's a self-inflicted wound. It's the Ravens. They beat themselves. At some point, no, this is actually who they are. I know it's a tough pill to swallow, but it's true. And I think coming off last night, I'm more along the lines of this is who they are right now, rather than, man, the Ravens just keep getting in their own way. And again, I also recognize, like I've already addressed a couple times, a couple interceptions that easily could have, or a couple incompletions for Josh Allen that could have been interceptions, the fluky touchdown off the tip to Keon Coleman, a couple would-be flags that weren't. I get all that. You can go the same way for the Ravens as well. Ultimately, this is who they are right now. This is who they were this time last year. And unless they go through yet another in-season transformation, which they proved to be able to do successfully last year after 10 weeks of football, and climb their way back into 12 wins, scratched and clawed for a divisional win, overtook, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have no doubt that they're going to be able to do all that and more and have a successful regular season. Will this stuff, a non-existent pass rush, not a ton of gap integrity and pass rush lanes respect, right? Inconsistent offensive strategizing and play calling when it matters most. Protecting the football, i.e. Derrick Henry in the fourth quarter or Lamar Jackson in the first half of last year's divisional round game. Then what are they going to have to show for it? What are they going to have to show for this historic, generational, deep, talented roster that they've fielded now for 3 consecutive seasons? They're going to have nothing. They're going to have squat to show for all of that, and that will be an epic disappointment. The guest lines are open. Thank you for being with me. I can almost feel my eyes shutting. So this is clearly not working. But Saad, Blitz, and Manny are in the waiting room right now as Tilly shakes because she wants to say hello to everybody on what's been a rainy, dreary day here in St. Pete. This episode is brought to you by my friends at ProfitX. And if you guys aren't familiar with my newest brand sponsor that just came on for this entire upcoming football season, I would love for you to familiarize yourself because it is America's #1 sports prediction market. And it's going to be my go-to for this upcoming season in terms of season-long plays, player props, everything else. And it's basically where you win real money predicting sports in 40-plus states. I have the graphic that's attached right here where you can see all the participating states that are highlighted in turquoise. You're going to get better odds than traditional sports books because you're playing against others, not the house. And with ProfitX, you can request your own odds, play with confidence, and get super fast payouts straight to your bank, card, or even crypto if you're in that game. Right now, if you sign up at ProfitX.co and use promo code BobbyB, as you see on the screen, this was the previous graphic. There it is, BobbyB, BOBBYB. You're going to get up to $200 in profit cash on all your plays for the first 30 days. So go ahead and consider signing up now at ProfitX.co. If you click on the link, it'll bring you directly to their site, which is super easy to use. And maybe we'll take a quick look ahead to this upcoming Sunday. It's the Ravens and Browns. It's the home opener at the bank. And let's just take a look what they got going on. Obviously, there's a bunch of different categories and leagues to choose from. We're on the NFL. You already know how it goes there. And let's see. Browns traveling to the Ravens. Cleveland, of course, lost to Cincinnati in week 1. And the Ravens are 11.5-point favorites at the bank. Over-under is set at 45.5. We know Cleveland spoiled one of the 2 games against the Ravens last year, literally with Jameis Winston as their starter. All due respect to Jameis. And when I say spoiled, that was actually one of the ones that you could just straight up say the Ravens spoiled their own chances to beat the Browns that day. I think that game was in Cleveland, if memory serves. Kyle Hamilton couldn't wrap up what would have been a game-sealing would-be interception there from Jameis Winston, and just honestly one of those games that just leaves you scratching your head in terms of how the hell you got there. And maybe that's how you guys feel as we approach 24 hours since kickoff of week 1 in Buffalo. But anyway, if you click the link that I have included in the show notes below and you use code BobbyB at ProfitX.co, you'll get up to $200 in profit cash on all your plays for the first 30 days. So much to choose from on here. Enjoy it. It's America's #1 sports prediction market, and they've been kind enough to partner up and power the Bobby Baltimore channel this football season. Guest lines are open. Let's continue to give thoughts on a number of things, including where things went wrong, kind of not just necessarily in the trenches, but between the lines, maybe some marginal type of setbacks, some polish that needs to be cleaned up. And I think you got to start with special teams. Trenton Simpson, without having his name actually dropped in this press conference an hour or 2 ago by John Harbaugh, he wasn't indirectly mentioned on that touchback. You got to down that football inside the 3, inside the 2, somewhere around there. Back Buffalo up. One of the many special teams gaffes yesterday by Cris Horton's group.
When the Bills look at the tape, there's a bunch of little details too. And as a matter of fact, he told me that after the game. So there's a bunch of things that turn up, but when you lose the game, that's when you start adding them up. Where it could have made the difference. But we coach that. Inside the 5-yard line, you stay on your feet. You never leave your feet. That's something that's been coached for a long time around here. So, but in that moment, we didn't have the wherewithal to think to do it. So, we've all got to just learn from that. You just have to learn from those things. Otherwise, it's a wasted opportunity.
A lot of wasted opportunities from a special teams perspective yesterday. Pulling up my notes, man. I mean, you think it starts and ends with in a game that's decided by 1 point, Tyler Loop's extra point, but it really just begins there. And then there's a long laundry list of critiques that have to be mentioned after that. What about the first 2 coverage units sequences? I mean, talk about short field opportunities for Josh Allen to settle in week 1 of the season. I mean, it's just not good enough. I do want to give a shout out to Keon Martin, even though, goodness gracious, some of the timed plays that he had were really close, very, very close. But he also showed you why he's got some precision and he's fearless out there, which is a lot of fun to watch. The undrafted rookie, one of the 3 that made the Ravens just a couple weeks ago during roster construction from 90 to 53. What else do I have for you on this one? Tyler Loop failed to make it to the landing zone at one point in the second half, so the Bills had a chance to start at their own 40 as a result, so that's a problem. What else? Obviously, Tyler's extra point is an issue. We just mentioned the Trenton Simpson touchback that should have been downed after a beautiful punt, by the way. Beautiful technique and well-timed, well executed by Jordan Stout, all for naught there with Trenton Simpson. John Harbaugh did just share a little while ago that he feels comfortable with sort of the split rotation between Trenton and, of course, Teddy Buchanan, the day 3 pick out of Cal that I thought showed some good signs and some flashes of consistency as a rookie in his NFL debut last night. But, man, is that an indictment in terms of what they feel like they have in Trenton Simpson? That's tough. Manuel's Gaming Channel, Manny, a.k.a. Mr. I'm sure he's going to be on here talking heavy endorsements of himself in a couple minutes when we bring him on here because of John Harbaugh's role in what became yet another epic collapse. But Manny says, Bobby, do you still think that I'm a bad replacement for Harbaugh? Let me think about that for a second. Yep. Nick Marty, we'll bring you on in a second there, champ. Bobby, this goes all the way back to the Super Bowl. I mean, they had double-digit leads twice against New England. Years after that and choked. Yes, this goes back a long time. And I'm just speaking to some of the graphics that I know I had up earlier on. I know we can go way back. I mean, there's a graphic that has games that go back over a decade. I get it. This has been something that's plagued the Ravens for a long time. And it feels almost a part of their DNA, which is not something that you want. Controlling the narrative about your team. You know, narratives typically have a level of fantasy to them or a level of sensationalism to them. Not here. This is just straight up fact. The Ravens cannot get out of their own way and cannot consistently finish games. And as my guy Samuel Njoku just wrote, I saw on his show, and he came on my pregame show yesterday, as Tilly makes yet another cameo. We got to really close the blinds around here or something. It's driving me nuts and loses my concentration. What the hell was I going to say? And Njoku said the Ravens are not to be trusted. And that's, look, I wouldn't go as far to say that in the regular season, even though last night obviously was a prime example of why it's hard to with a fourth quarter lead. But certainly I think we can all go in that direction in do or die postseason games where they just fall flat. And it's unfortunate because you're left wondering, well, what has to change? Does this change overnight with leadership at the top? Is John Harbaugh to blame for a Derrick Henry uncharacteristic fumble in the fourth quarter? I have a hard time with that. Is John Harbaugh ultimately to blame for, you name it, a Tyler Loop as a rookie who converted from 49 and 52 or 53 prior to the missed extra point? Is that John Harbaugh's fault? So I think it's a combination of both. And I think we've done a fair job, Sarah and I, over the last 12 hours or so of divvying up blame accordingly, which is both player execution or lack thereof, and ultimately the underprepared nature with which the Ravens showed up to Buffalo in that fourth quarter from a coaching standpoint, from a play calling standpoint, and everything else in between. Thanks, Nick. Cris says, you know what was up with the Keaton scratch? Is he hurt? John Harbaugh shared he was asked directly by Jeff Zrebiec in the press conference earlier this afternoon, and John referred to it as a numbers decision. So make of that what you will. Keaton Mitchell, a healthy scratch. He was inactive last night in week 1, which meant that Derrick Henry was RB1, of course, Justice Hill, RB2, and Rasheen Ali handled primary kickoff return duties as RB3. Thanks, Cris. Let's open up those guest lines. If you're interested in calling in, I'll go to Manny first, then Richard. Thank you guys for being here. Good, solid show today. Like the video on your way in. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell and try to keep me awake because my eyes are literally closing. It's been that kind of primetime turnaround. What's going on, brother? Yeah, I mean, look, I know you don't like what I just can't get quite behind. I'll endorse you one day if things go really south really quickly and violently. But for right now, I'm riding with the second longest tenured head coach in this league. But I know there's a lot of people, Manny, if you want to start to pitch yourself within this channel right now, there might be 600 people at this current moment that would have receptive ears to you as the interim to John.
Yeah, I mean, I would have just kept my foot on the pedal. I would have just, you know what, as also a coaching problem, and I think you and Sarah might have overlooked throughout the game. Why was Justice Hill running Derrick Henry type plays? Why do you put in, the size of Justice and the size of Henry is very different, but you put Justice to run Derrick Henry specific plays, plow it into the middle. Like, no, that's Derrick Henry. And until they start doing that a little bit more often in the third quarter, actually, that's when, all the gates were loose and we were thinking, yes, this is our game. We got it now. Like, they understood. You run Derrick through the middle. Justice, you go ahead on the outside. But you stop doing that.
We didn't really talk about it much at all. If that's your point during the lunch hour, I mean, we can. I just thought that there was more there was more conversation given to the 4th and 3 decision, right? Yep. What you're seeing up on the screen right now, which I think might be, the biggest talking point of them all, and that is really just after the first 8 drives, nothing to show for offensive output wise. I mean, take a look. For the audio-only audience, after scoring 40 points on 8 drives, as Warren Sharp, friend of the Vault, tweeted out last night, and gaining 410 yards on those 8 drives, over the final 3, the Ravens had only 17 combined yards, which resulted in 2 punts and a fumble. The fumble, of course, a fourth quarter one by Derrick Henry, and the 3 and out, that final one, and just 7 yards totaled up, was, of course, the decision to punt away, and that was that, giving the ball from one MVP to another to officially shut the door. So this is disturbing. I mean, this is just it's disturbing. It's disappointing, and ultimately, it's hard to accept it. Right? It's hard to accept this kind of output or lack thereof from the number 1 ranked offense in this league. You cannot English just goes out the door. It's just how it is. Hopefully you guys don't mind. It's coming up on 5 o'clock. And I'm going on with Ariel Epstein in 20 minutes. I have no idea how I'm going to form English for her, but hopefully I do. It's past the point of trying to wrap your head around what happens in these moments. There's a perfect storm of underperformance. Yes. Whether it be an AFC championship game where you abandon the run, whether it be a 2-turnover first half in the divisional round on the road in a hostile, wintry mix environment, whether it be sloppy penalties and lack of polish on all 3 phases, whether it be your bell cow coughing up the football after he's going through
that was an excellent play. I'm not blaming Henry. That was an excellent defensive play, but like the drive before and the drive after the fumble, those types of plays, like cute design plays, like, okay, you've already established dominance on it. How do you continue to establish dominance on great teams, not good teams? Because the Buffalo Bills are a great team, and you know that they have the possibility to come back. So what do? You just keep smashing it. You keep smashing, you keep scoring points. I don't care if the bettors are going to lose their money. you keep going. It's something that has been taught since elementary football. Like they teach you is like, oh yeah, but they keep, yes, there's a score limit, like I think 36 points and that's it, and the game is over. But still, it teaches you to, hey, if you're against a great team, you just gotta keep smashing it until it's 0-0-0. And I think that falls on Harbaugh on, hey, you know what? After a fumble, gather everyone up. All right, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. Keep awake. Don't get comfortable. Let's keep smashing on that O-line. Heavy formation so that we can just run the ball, and waste the clock. That's it. That's all you had to do.
Appreciate the call as always, brother. I'll catch up with you soon.
All right, see you.
Manny Mania. You know it. He's just waiting for that day, right? Waiting for the day that the Ravens or all 573 of you all come together and say, you know what? I think we've found our predecessor. Or excuse me, I think we found our successor. It's not Mike McDonald. It's not Zach Orr. It's not Chuck Pagano, right? It's not Anthony Weaver. It's not Tyler Santucci. I'm just naming all these randoms that have come up in recent years. Not randoms, but potential John Harbaugh successors. Anyway, back to the guest lines we go. I appreciate you guys for being with me on this Monday. Over 600 of you concurrently watching across both platforms. If you could like the video, pop on over to YouTube, subscribe, hit that notification bell, consider becoming a channel member or gift-giving membership. Richard, what's going on, brother? Eyes on the road. Don't get me in trouble. I miss you dearly. What's going on, my friend? And how are you feeling today?
Hey, Bobby. How am I feeling today? That's a wonderful question. I think every single Ravens fan's pissed off right now. I mean, at the end of the day, I made the comment in the super chat on the lunch hour. This regular season, at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know about everybody else. For me, I'm kind of conditioned to it at this point. I mean, the only games that mattered to me, I said, were, the Chiefs, the Bills, which we just lost, and Green Bay. Those are the only teams that I see in our schedule as legitimate Super Bowl contenders based on, this history / the projection / what we saw from the games this week. So, I mean, we saw, I don't know if you guys saw it, but I mean, Green Bay absolutely, made the Lions their bitch. I think that they're going to be a threat. They're going to be a huge threat. Their defense was already good. Now they have Micah Parsons. What issue does the Ravens have besides questionable coach calls during critical moments, choking in the most important, times of the game? What else do they have that's an issue? I say it's the line, D-line, and to an extent D-line, and to an extent O-line. D-line can, they have times where they're doing really, really well, but against, the Bills O-line, they were doing.
Uh-oh. Richard.
Bills D-line was doing way more to our O-line than our D-line was doing to theirs. And I think that's where, that's where winning happens, is the trenches.
You still with me, Richard? It looks like you're going in and out of service. So let me know if you can get that service back and call back in. I know some of you also want to call in. So let me drop that link into the live chat once more, since there's a lot of comments today. If you guys would like to call in and share a quick thought with me, I do have a 5 o'clock segment with Ariel Epstein, but I did want to give an update here on this that I saw earlier, and that is the Bills fan who shoved not only DeAndre Hopkins, but Lamar Jackson as well, and then Lamar sent him a row back. Got to love that, the loyalty from Lamar. But that fan has been indefinitely banned, not only from entering the Bills stadium again, but all NFL stadiums, which is absolutely, positively the right decision made by the National Football League. The kid couldn't have been more than like 21 years old. He completely acted out of pocket, slapping DeAndre Hopkins on the helmet with his hand, then giving Lamar Jackson a shove, and Lamar was like, nah, I'm going to send you a row back, little boy. So I hope Lamar, for his sake and for his pocket's sake, not that he can't handle it, doesn't get fined. Something tells me he might. A very minor fine by the National Football League. I'm not saying I agree with that whatsoever, but I'm sure they'll go to some fine language in the code of conduct book and you watch. But point is, this fan ain't going to any Bills games anytime soon, and really no NFL games across the board either for the foreseeable future. So that just came out since we were last live earlier. The Bills blitzed Lamar on 10 of his 22 dropbacks in week 1. But Lamar's numbers, by the way, were fantastic. They had an answer and a pressure plan for the blitz. Lamar was 7 of 9 for 140 yards, a touchdown, no picks, a passer rating of 155.8, 0.83 EPA per dropback. That measures efficiency and performance, and 11.8 air yards per attempt. That, in terms of Lamar Jackson's performance against the blitz. The guest lines are open. I appreciate you guys for being with me tonight. Over 600 concurrents at the moment watching this one. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell if you haven't already done so. And as you can see as a pinned comment right now in the live chat, if you'd like to connect with me on Twitter or X this football season, you can follow along by clicking on that link that I have as a pinned comment. A couple super chats. Captain Hard says, first season where the mainstream media is calling for this to be John's last year, if no Super Bowl. And Captain, at some point, you just got to ask yourself, in year 8 of Lamar Jackson, you blink and it's year 8 of Lamar Jackson in the National Football League, knowing how much they've fallen short, knowing this disturbing trend of an inability to consistently close out games, and knowing that this window, this Super Bowl window, if you will, of perennial contending type of potential that they've fielded roster-wise for years running now, that's a finite window. And so at one point to Steve Bisciotti, and we had this conversation last year, we'll probably continue to have it should this plague them at times throughout the next 17 weeks. But at what point does Steve Bisciotti start to feel like his back's up against the wall and that time could be running out? Because this is a generational talent. You cannot risk, 1, him heading elsewhere outside of Baltimore, and 2, not capitalizing on this window that they are currently in right now and have been for years running. Captain also writes, the defense is the problem. Every comeback starts with them not getting stops. We have got to stop picking up semi-washed players and pay the money. We'll see what happens with Jair Alexander. Rodney Harrison had a few things to say about Jair Alexander. We'll play this from earlier today. Go back to the guest lines. Saad, Judah, Julian, all waiting in that waiting room. What's up, fellas? Be right with you.
Looking at Coach Harbaugh, I'm looking at Coach Harbaugh, and he has to continue to emphasize finishing. And that's something that comes from the head coach. And this just cannot, they're too talented of a team. This is their Super Bowl window. They have an opportunity to do some special things. And when I see them falling short like this, it's just an undisciplined team. They get comfortable, and they just need that head coach to continue to put that pressure on them and say, guys, you can never get comfortable. I don't care if you have a 15-point lead. You got to continue to finish. And I think that comes from the head coach.
And you had mentioned already this season, you felt like that had been some of their shortcomings, in particular in the playoffs, was some of those similar mistakes. Is that some of the same things you saw tonight?
Yeah, it's just it's a mindset, okay? Whether you're up 15 points or not, you can never relax. You can never just say, Coach, okay, we're good. It's only 4 minutes left. You're playing against Josh Allen. You're playing against a team that's super explosive. They got an unbelievable quarterback that they always believe that he can get it done, Coach.
Yep, no doubt about it. And again, you talk about discipline, you talk about doing things right, and they didn't do it when it counted. In those last 5 minutes of the game, they didn't execute.
And some of the players have to be accountable.
Yeah.
I talked to Jair Alexander. He said, I'm ready to play. I'm going to play 20, 25 plays. That's half. You got to be ready. When your name is called, you have to be ready. And if you don't have post safety help, what are you doing playing outside technique, giving up the inside? It's those little things, but that comes from an experienced defensive coordinator. You know what I mean? So
details,
the small details, and that's the difference between winning a championship and just being an MVP and not winning a championship.
For sure. And as good of a game as Derrick Henry had, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer when this thing's all said and done. That is a 2 hands on the football, as tight as you can get it scenario. Without that fumble, they're probably still going to put this game away.
But also felt like the defense, they were doing the same thing, just conservative, cover two, no pressures, nothing exotic, no moving around. It was just a base defense. And once again, defensive coordinator Zach Orr, I think he's grown as a defensive coordinator, but he has to get better. He has to understand his personnel better, and he has to understand the opposing team's personnel better.
That from two-time Super Bowl champion Rodney Harrison last night on Sunday Night Football. And just in case you're late to the party on this live stream, former NFL wide receiver Cris Carter had this to say about Harbaugh. Quote, "He's been absent on the sideline in the last 4 or 5 years. I'm concerned about their whole defensive system, and not just last night, but what I've seen the last several years. They don't have an identity as a defense, and when you don't have an identity, that's going to dictate going for it more on fourth down, even if your quarterback is compromised." What does he mean by that? Well, Lamar told reporters last night, as we all know by now, that he was cramping as he came off the field, didn't even push the envelope to go for it on 4th and 3. Ultimately, the Ravens punted away to Josh Allen. We know the rest was history after that. To the guest lines we go. Thank you for being with me tonight. Like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Over 700 concurrents at the moment. And Saad Blitz 34, who spends the majority of his day seemingly just dumping awesome analytics, statistics, tidbits, you name it, into the Vault Super Chat, now joins me for the first time face-to-face. What's going on, Saad? Good to see you, man.
How's it going, Bobby? Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Normally, I'd have like 10 million things to say, but today I'm just hurting. I'm sure a lot of us are. As far as the analytics go, his press conference was painful to watch. You know, he's talking about, well, you have to weigh whether the analytics are there for you or not. There was a higher win probability going for it than there was punting. With the success that their offense had against our defense, it was a better chance. The win probability is going to drop if you don't make it, but at that play, you got a better chance of winning by going for it than you do punting. And when he said that, oh, well, if I went for it and we didn't make it, everyone would be second guessing me. I don't think people like him who were playing conservative or thinking conservatively would be second guessing him. 90% of us wanted him to go for it. There wouldn't be any second guessing about that. That's what we all wanted. And all in all, after that, I'm just sitting here thinking about Ed Reed. You know, Ed Reed talking about 2008 John Harbaugh coming in, ruffling feathers. You know, where's that guy? We need that guy back. We need the guy who's got the attitude, the guy who's going to get in the coordinator's ears and say, hey, we need to switch it up, or we need to bring the pressure. Not the guy that's going to say, all right, guys, let's not mess this up.
Let me ask you this, related to the 4th and 3, because I was thinking about this earlier, and maybe it'll be an easy yes. I don't know. But I'm curious to hear what you think. And live chat, feel free to weigh in as well. Now knowing, as we learned last night, that Lamar was cramping and wasn't even pushing the envelope, like I just mentioned, right? Was not pushing the envelope to go for it on 4th and 3. They opt to punt it. Rest is history. You give it to Josh Allen, good night, especially with the way that defense was reeling, surrendering 28 freaking second half points, which is just, it's pathetic, really. And let's call it how it is. Would you, Saad, would you have been comfortable with a wildcat Derrick Henry type of formation with 4th and 3 yards on the line, right? The game on the line, really, to ice it, knowing that 2 of your body moving pieces are not available in Pat Ricard and in Isaiah Likely? Would you try to look at it objectively? Would you have been okay with that to go and get 3 yards?
I think you would at least take the timeout and talk to everybody, see where you're at. You know what I mean? See, hey, what can we come up with? He said that, you know, you don't want to do that because you might get a delay game. Well, if you're punting anyway, a delay game doesn't matter. You know, I would have at least used a timeout, because at that point, if you give the ball back to them with so little time on the clock, your timeouts aren't going to do much good anyway. And hindsight, though, they came down to nothing. The timeouts didn't really matter at all. So I would have at least used a timeout, you know, had a little conference with everybody, see where everybody's at, see what we could come up with. You know, you got a 40-second clock. Add a 30-second timeout. You got at least a minute where you can come up with something, or at least see where you stand. And if not, take the delay of game and punt it.
Saad, can you tell us all what you do for a living?
I'm a utility forester.
I was thinking
I,
somewhere.
I
Yeah.
travel power lines in Maryland, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, just looking for hazardous trees, stuff that grows into the power line, stuff like that. I'm out in the middle of nowhere right now.
I absolutely love the tricked out setup that you have right now. It looks like a command center.
Yeah,
And,
my truck is my office.
I absolutely love it. Now I know why you just dump expertise and analysis and everything numbers wise into the vault every day. And we appreciate you, man. It was great to meet you.
Thanks for having me on, man. It's great to finally see you face to face.
Absolutely. Likewise. I hope to do it again. Sod Blitz 34 live from his command center, which is just freaking fantastic. We got to get 2 quick ones in because I'm on at 5:10 with Ariel Epstein to talk on her show. She's a huge Ravens fan. So, Julian, what you got for me? How we feeling? I think I already know the answer.
Yeah, Bobby, the final score that I gave you, I think was it Friday? I think it was.
Yeah.
Was it 40-20? Was a little bit off on that, wasn't I? I was
Thank you for holding yourself accountable.
I was spot on about that, but they couldn't. We all know the end result. I wanted to be saying that I'm angry as mostly all the fan base, but it's like I'm numb to it because we've seen it before. We've seen it like 8 times. You put up the graphic on it. It's a mentality problem with this team. And it's not just that, but it's more reflecting on the head coach. I think we've all said it. It's been that way for a long time. And until, I don't know, I can say something changes, but probably won't. It's just like we're stuck in this like bad vortex when it comes to Harbaugh. We're stuck with it. And we don't know what's going to happen down the road. We don't know how it's going to change. We don't know. All right, we're going to get to the playoffs. Yeah, maybe something changes, but I wish I had the answers. I wish we all had the answers for it, but I just don't know. I just don't know.
I'm not sure anybody in the building knows, and I think that's what's probably the most disturbing part of this entire thing because it's dating back. I already had the chart up. You can go back to 2022 with these blown leads. I mean, this is an epidemic for Baltimore. I mean, I don't think there's anything hyperbolic about that. This right here, this is an epidemic. This is something that has to get fixed. This is a disturbing trend. And unfortunately, I don't want to drag Kyle Hamilton for the way that he handled his press conference last night, but this is who they are right now. This is who this defense is. Okay, there's a reason why Marlon Humphrey handled the offseason the way in which he did, essentially saying, I don't even think you need to paraphrase this. He straight up said, we are not feared as a defense the way we once were.
No.
Your longest tenured defensive player is using his platform throughout the offseason, Julian, just as we kind of let's just not I think that was swept under the rug. Your longest tenured defensive player used his platform behind the mic this offseason to channel, I'm sure, an internal motivation or send a message, right, as the longest tenured leader on this team, as if to say, this is not good enough. We are no longer feared, and it's time to revisit the fearful days, or at least spreading fear around the league on that side of the football. And by Marlon saying that, it's aging in a way where it's kind of eye-opening to the point where this was a pedestrian, below pedestrian team defensively through 10 weeks that was picked on. And it was hard for Lamar and company to overcome that last year, but you put forth a statistically historically great season from Lamar, and somehow, some way, they still rip off 12 wins. They win the AFC North. They win a playoff game and get bounced in the divisional round.
Right.
Joe Burrow had a historic statistical season. He couldn't overcome what was even worse than what the Ravens were dealing with through 10 weeks on his side, or I should say on the opposite side of his phase of the football game in Cincinnati last year. But I think it's just important to reiterate that there's a reason why Marlon said that, and you're 6-5 so far through 1 week. Again, we're not going to be prisoners of the moment. This could very well be an early preview of what's an opportunity in a game that decides who's going to Santa Clara out of the AFC. But there's a reason why Marlon said that earlier this offseason.
Right.
6-5 so far through 1 week. Again, we're not going to be prisoners of the moment. This could very well be an early preview of what's an opportunity in a game that decides who's going to Santa Clara out of the AFC. But the reason
It definitely is. It just speaks to the heart of the team, and he just put it bluntly: we're not feared. We're not feared by anybody on the defense, as they were in 2023. It's sad, and I've seen a couple of guys talk about it. Yeah, we probably should have promoted Mike McDonald as the head coach, but we all know that was going to happen because the favoritism up in the castle. So, I mean, and then what's even worse, and I'm probably the only one to mention this. Ray Lewis was on the sideline watching that.
Yeah.
He was down there. How do you think he feels looking at that and seeing this every day? And everybody said he should be the head coach. I mean, yeah, but we know that's never going to happen. So I don't know where we go at from here. It's early in the season, yeah, but it's like this is a scary foreshadowing of things to come. In my
Thanks
mind.
for the call, brother. I'm going to try and circle through some. We'll do it again. Thank you again. Back-to-back calls. Hey, Judah, Juicebox, let's finish up with you guys. And I have a 5:05 hard out because of a segment that I'm doing with Ariel Epstein in 10 minutes. Rommel writes, is it Rommel or Rommel? Let me know. 2014, twice 14-point leads blown. 2014, twice 14-point leads blown against the Patriots. Okay, I see what you're saying. So, yes, people are dating back years and years and years to this, not just since 2022, as this graphic right here displayed. We've already went through that over and over again until the cows come home. Quan writes, were we playing the Bengals wide receiver group? How do you not blitz all night? By the way, this is all in caps. How do you not blitz all night? We play soft zone versus Shakir and Keon Coleman. Allen dropped back 50 times, and they only got to him once. Are you kidding me? Yeah, this is a non-existent pass rush group, and I just wonder if not wholesale changes will be made, because that's not possible. It's week 1 of the season. But in 2 months' time, will the Ravens be forced to make a deal at the deadline or be forced to bring in what's, of course, a Band-Aid at this point in his career? I mean that with all due respect. But Jadeveon Clowney is still out there waiting in the wings, I'm sure, waiting to join a team at the right time. We'll have to see. It was a very lackluster performance that we've become all too familiar with, particularly in the postseason when it comes to a lack of rush. There is very little pressure coming on 4-man rushes for Zach Orr's group up front, defensively speaking. I should say Chuck Smith's group up front, defensively speaking. Dre Dog says, Bobby, we fire Harbs. Who we going with, Monk or Chuck? Todd Monken's gotten interviews before. Who interviewed him in recent years? Jacksonville, I want to say. He's had a few interviews since he got to Baltimore, and nobody's taken a chance on him. And I feel like that's been the case in years past. Didn't he? He was a college coach for a short while, right? I would think Chuck Pagano, because of the experience, probably gets that opportunity. Although he made it clear in his press conference, I remember that during one of his introductory press conferences, rejoining the Ravens, that his days of chasing after, aspirations that come with head coach titles are over. Would that change if John Harbaugh gets the axe, which I don't think is happening? Maybe. It is Chuck. He's a prideful guy. Judah, let's do this quickly, my friend. In 30 seconds, how about this? In 60 seconds or less, talk to me. You're looking like you're mysterious right now with no light, which is fine. We know who you are. And then we'll go to Juice Box.
I got poor lighting. So I'll try to be quick. I'm going to run through this as fast as I can. Harbaugh does not move the needle for this team. I don't think he ever did. The fact of the matter is Harbaugh doesn't call offense or defense. Losing Harbaugh wouldn't hurt this team at all. As a matter of fact, if Harbaugh's got the boot today, the team wouldn't even notice it until the end of the season, because he does nothing for the team at all. He's a placeholder, and he's a motivational speaker at best. Outside of that, this loss I blame more on Zach Orr than anybody. He dropped the ball. I'm a staunch defender of defense, but the defense was terrible. Like the guy said, they didn't blitz Josh Allen at all. We don't have a pass rush because, again, all you fans of Odafe Oweh, he is Odafe no way. He is never near the ball. He is never a factor at all. You can throw Mike Green in one time in the game, and he will make more of an impact than Oweh the whole game. Van Noy is slowing down. That's what the pass rush didn't get anywhere because of those two. I'm not blaming Van Noy. He's an older guy. We know he can produce. I'm gonna try to speed through this. Offense. We had a very important player that wasn't out there, Keaton Mitchell. John Harbaugh, once again, is known for special teams. Well, the genius John Harbaugh says it was a numbers game. So you left out the better running back, who's also a better returner and a better running back, to play Ali over him. This is how smart our coach is. So you could have used that number to replace Ali with Keaton Mitchell. I was hard on Hopkins coming in. He is a true number one receiver. That's what we should have did on fourth and 3. Most teams in the NFL would have drew up a pass play and threw it to their best receiver. We had that option because every time Lamar wanted to go to Hopkins, he was able to go to Hopkins. One time he went to Hopkins and let the whole defense know the ball was going to Hopkins, and Hopkins still caught the ball because he's a true number one. That's what we should have did on 4th and 3. And I'm gonna move on real quick. Outside of that, those are the biggest factors that lost the game for us right there. And Bateman, I'm gonna say it again. Bateman, he got overlooked all night because you have Zay, who's an athlete, and you have Hopkins, who's a number one. Where does that leave Bateman? I've never been big on Bateman, and I think it showed up tonight. He doesn't move the needle. I really think we can go with a Tez Walker and get more out of him at this point.
Thanks, brother. I want to keep it going here just to get Judah in, or excuse me, Juicebox in. I appreciate you, Judah. My man is Mr. Mysterious today, but he's coming in with passion, just like you were the other day during a pregame show. I appreciate you. And let's go to Juicebox J84. One more on the way out. What do you got for us here, the caboose of this hour-plus long show? Talk to me.
Man, I'll just say this real quick. When Patrick Mahomes when they were first kicking off, he had Eric Bieniemy, who was just like toying with everybody because of the pretty much Tyreek Hill, right? Here's my thing with John Harbaugh and Todd Monken. I like Todd Monken because he kind of unlocked Lamar, but I want somebody young. We need somebody young. Somebody said about the Wildcat. Can you imagine having him line up in the Wildcat, right? And having Lamar split back with him and maybe Justice Hill. You got those 3 back here. He takes it. Lamar splits out and runs, and he throws a freaking pass to Lamar. Like something like that. Something that is so out of character with Baltimore that it will catch people off guard. And you ain't got to do it every time, but that's the creativity that we're missing, because I really don't think we're gonna see another player like Lamar. We might get some duplicates, but it's not gonna be him. And the fact that we finally got Derrick Henry back there with him, like, we should have never stopped giving it to Derrick in that second quarter and going to Justice. I love Justice Hill. He's always been there. And I agree with the dude that was just on there. Why in the hell we got Rasheen Ali? Put Keaton Mitchell out there. The dude missed all last year. He's ready to go. And he's a healthy scratch. And the Jabo, they both got to go. We finally got rid of Brandon Stevens. He should have packaged them boys up, somebody else, and found a way to get Micah Parsons. Once I found out he said he wanted to be a Raven, I was like, John Harbaugh and them got to go. I love Harbs. It's time for him to go, man. The game is beyond you. Move up into the front office like most people do. Go sit next to Ozzie and let some young boys come in and cook. That's all I got.
Juicebox, appreciate you. Thank you. And tell that, what is that, your little one over your right shoulder?
Yeah.
Hanging out?
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on?
$5,000. Yeah, that's my shadow. I scared the crap out of her last night when D-Hop caught the ball and I screamed out, holy shit. And she popped up and said, what happened?
She's cute, man. Enjoy it. And thank you for the
Appreciate
call. Do it again another time. All right. Juicebox J84 and everybody for participating today. I'm going to go hop on Ariel Epstein's show right now, literally in 2 minutes. So thank you guys for being here. Please like the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And help me become a 1,000 member Discord community owner. You can join the Discord server for free, which is a 24/7 conversation for Baltimore sports. It's a hub, and we talk much more than just Baltimore sports as well. I just dropped the link in the show notes for you, or into the live chat, I should say. So I'm going on Ariel's show. We're going to go do that right now. It was a 3 live stream day. Let's see how much Celsius carries me home. Thanks to ProfitX. Thanks to Preston Automotive Group and all my sponsors across this channel for the love and support. And guys, on the way out, if you could just help the channel out, you know how it goes. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Consider becoming a channel member or a gift-giving membership on this Monday. And we'll catch up with you tomorrow at 12 noon for a Ravens Lunch Hour live stream inside the vault. I'll talk to you then, guys.